Good morning. Thanks for tuning in to Local News Live here on AOC 1. We're also streaming on Cypress Street Radio, which is aocinc.org/CS Radio, as well as live on YouTube. You should check out our channel, AOC Community Media. This is a service to the community, normally with volunteers, but our volunteer for this morning, Bruce Cohen, has some family in town. We hope he's enjoying that. I'm Mandy Ao. I will be reading your news stories for you this morning. We're reading from the Acadiana Advocate, local and state news. Let's get started with some tropical weather updates. Marco and Laura. Little time expected between storms. Governor warns of long power outages and high water. An article by Sam Carlin. People in Louisiana need to be prepared to ride out a 1-2 punch of expected hurricanes for 72 hours beginning Monday, Governor John Bel Edwards said, as officials warned power in areas might not be restored and waters might not have time to recede between the storms. The first storm expected to hit Louisiana, the small Category 1 Hurricane Marco, was already being felt Sunday evening in parts of South Louisiana and was expected to make landfall Monday. The second storm, Laura, is forecast to hit the state as a Category 2 or possibly a Category 3 hurricane on Wednesday. If both storms continue to barrel toward Louisiana, forecasters are more confident about the track of Marco than Laura. There could be only a 12 to 18-hour window between the impacts of the storms, officials said. We're basically going to get a right hook from Marco and a left hook from Laura, Edwards said. The projected path of the two storms spinning toward the same state one after the other is unprecedented in modern history, said Ben Schott, meteorologist in charge for the National Weather Service in New Orleans. Excuse me. There is a very narrow window between these two systems, and I can't really put words together clearly to talk about how odd that is, Schott said. At least in modern meteorological history, there's never been anything we've seen like this before. The National Hurricane Center shifted the forecast of Hurricane Marco to the west on Sunday afternoon, and the latest forecast has the storm nearing the Louisiana coast Monday afternoon and moving over the coast throughout Tuesday night. The National Weather Service gives a storm a 66% chance of passing through that path. Those Schott warned places outside the so-called cone, including New Orleans and the North Shore, may experience bad weather and flooding. The unprecedented timing and path of the storms could worsen the impacts felt by residents in South Louisiana if the storms stay on track. Officials warned that the biggest danger to people will be water. Some of the hardest hit areas could be hammered by rain bands from both storms and see up to 2 feet of rain, while most areas are at risk of between 5 and 10 inches. And Edwards warned rivers may not have a chance to drain between Marco and Laura. If Marco knocks out power to Louisiana residents as expected, it may be out longer than normal, Edwards said. He urged people to be ready to shelter in place for 72 hours. If you're in duress and need help, we're going to get to you as soon as possible, Edwards said at the state's Emergency Operations Center, where officials were tracking and preparing for the storms. But as soon as possible may be longer than it normally is. President Donald Trump's administration granted Edwards' request for an emergency disaster declaration for Louisiana, making federal aid available for state and local governments for the two storms. The aid is provided with a 75% to 25% federal-state cost share. Edwards said he spoke with the president about the request on Sunday. Schott said forecasters believe a Category 1 hurricane is likely the strongest Marco will get, and they have a good idea of where it will hit, likely along the southeast Louisiana coast before turning west and hugging the coast as a tropical storm before entering Texas. Laura, which was a tropical storm over the Dominican Republic on Sunday morning, is somewhat more uncertain, Schott said. Forecasters expect to have a better sense of its trajectory later once it moves off Cuba and into the Gulf of Mexico between Monday and Tuesday. Warmer than normal Gulf waters could help the storm intensify into a Category 2 hurricane or possibly stronger, Schott said. The storm has shut down community COVID-19 testing sites Monday and Tuesday, Edwards said, and the state was making plans for how to safely shelter people told to evacuate if needed. That would involve mass shelters as a last resort, said Jim Wascom, head of the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, and potentially hotels or motels to allow people to distance from others. Most people who die from these types of storms get caught up in high water, usually while attempting to drive through it, the governor said. He urged people not to drive through water, even if it appears shallow. Louisiana is also dealing with the extraordinary 1-2 punch of hurricanes in the middle of a pandemic that has already ravaged the state. Officials encouraged people to include masks and hand sanitizer in their hurricane kits and to practice social distancing even if evacuating. The virus is not concerned that we have hurricanes coming. It's not going to take time off, and neither can we, Edwards said. LSU joined a growing list of colleges and K-12 schools closing for class on Monday. Southern University was also closed Monday, and Baton Rouge Community College closed Monday and Tuesday. State offices were also closed in 35 South Louisiana parishes on Monday. More than 24 parishes had declared emergencies as of Sunday evening. Laura was expected to produce rainfall of 5 to 10 inches with isolated amounts of 15 inches across parts of the U.S. Gulf Coast, the National Hurricane Center said, with the possibility of flash, urban, and small stream flooding. Marco was also expected to cause potential flooding with total rainfall of 3 to 5 inches with isolated maximum amounts of 7 inches across the central U.S. Gulf Coast. And the Bulldog allowed to reopen after violations, bar operating on conditional restaurant permit, an article by Ben Myers. The Bulldog Bar near the University of Louisiana at Lafayette campus in Lafayette is open again after fire authorities briefly shut it down for violating the state's coronavirus restrictions. Bars are prohibited from selling food and drink for on-site consumption under Governor John Bel Edwards' emergency orders, but the Bulldog obtained a restaurant conditional license allowing it to operate as a restaurant. Still, the Lafayette Fire Department cited the Bulldog for emergency provisions that apply to bars as well as restaurants. Restaurants are permitted to operate at 50% capacity under the governor's orders. They must comply with strict seating guidelines that allow for appropriate spacing between customers, and all businesses must require face coverings. When bars do open for to-go sales or in a different phase of reopening, they must not allow bar seating areas to be used for social congregating. The Bulldog is one of more than 170 bars across Louisiana that have obtained conditional restaurant permits, according to KATC. In some cases, including the Bulldog, the bars have gotten permits without demonstrating they will earn more than half their revenue from food sales, which is the legal definition of a restaurant. Ernest Legere, the commissioner of the Office of Alcohol and Tobacco Control, has said the state is loosening that requirement on a case-by-case basis. Lafayette fire inspectors found the Bulldog violating the bans on on-site consumption and bar area congregations for bars, as well as the capacity limitation for restaurants on August the 15th. That is, according to a letter from Fire Chief Robert Benoit to the Bulldog's owner, containing the formal citations. Benoit's letter notes that patrons did not wear face coverings, but it does not cite the governor's mask order when listing violations. Restaurants and other businesses that can open for on-site consumption can allow patrons to remove the coverings while eating and drinking. Benoit said in an interview that the owner, Marek Kopasek, admitted that there had been violations in a meeting on Tuesday, and the Bulldog was then allowed to reopen the next day as the citations were finalized. The fire department released Benoit's formal letter Friday afternoon. If I wasn't comfortable with the conversation, he would stay closed, and I would investigate it further, Benoit said. The Bulldog opened on August 12th with a full kitchen and menus offering typical bar food, but parents of college students called into a KPEL radio segment with Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory the next morning to complain that people had partied at the bar without regard for any of the coronavirus rules. Over the next 4 nights, it was apparent from the outside that the Bulldog was doing little to comply with the rules, as patrons entered and left without masks, and people could be seen through the windows hanging out at the bar and getting served by a bartender. Still, state fire marshals, office inspectors, and local inspectors did not turn up any violations until the August 15th visit. Benoit's letter serves as the first in a three-strike policy, according to the letter. Additional violations could result in loss of occupancy certificate. Before his meeting with the fire chief, Kopacek told the Acadiana Advocate he thought inspectors misunderstood his legal status as a restaurant. He did not return additional calls after the meeting. Okay, give me just a sec. Just grabbing some water, and we'll move on to the next story here this morning. Okay, moving on to an article by Megan Wyatt. Fired up crowd attends day 2 of protests. Demonstrations follow fatal police shooting. Lafayette residents gathered Sunday for a second night of protests, this time beginning in front of Lafayette City Hall, where they voiced concerns about Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory and his administration's response to the fatal shooting of a black man by Lafayette police. The event, organized by the Lafayette chapter of the NAACP, focused on removing Guillory from office and dismantling the system that allowed Lafayette police to shoot 31-year-old Trayford Pellerin. There's an old saying I think I can remember as far as I can go back. Actions speak louder than words, said Marja Broussard, president of the Lafayette NAACP. Mayor Josh Guillory's lips are not matching with his actions. That tells me he's a liar, he's a fake, and he doesn't care about our people, and it's up to us to do whatever it takes to get him out of office. The NAACP has formally asked for the resignation of the mayor-president and plans to begin a recall petition if he doesn't step down. This will not change tomorrow, it will not change next week, it will not change next month, and if we're lucky, we might get change in 2021, Broussard said. The Friday night shooting of Pellerin at a Shell gas station on the Evangeline Thruway seemed to be a boiling point for civil unrest simmering in Lafayette since Guillory's administration cut leadership positions held by minorities and announced plans to close 4 recreation centers located in predominantly black neighborhoods. This is Lafayette, Louisiana. You picked the wrong damn city and the wrong group of people, community activist Jamal Taylor said to a group of protesters cheering him on outside City Hall. Police say they were called for a disturbance caused by Pellerin, who they say was holding a knife. They pursued Pellerin about a half-mile before firing at least 11 shots at him as he walked away from them and toward the door of another gas station. Guillory and law enforcement officers held a news conference Saturday condemning the behavior of protesters, who officials said threatened motorists and started fires earlier in the evening. Meanwhile, activists said Guillory should look internally at the role he and his administration have played in creating the charged climate. The news conference came after hours of community rallying and protests spilled into the streets, resulting in police using smoke grenades and arresting 3 people. Protesters taken into custody include Jaikan S. Simeon, 29, of Opelousas, Kimberly Collada, 38, of Lafayette, and Samuel R. Johnson, 33, of Lafayette, according to a booking report from the Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Office. All 3 were arrested by state police about 8:45 p.m. Saturday and booked on counts of obstruction of public passages. The Reverend Corey Young, in front of City Hall on Sunday, compared Lafayette leadership and law enforcement to baking a cake. He told the crowd that when he once forgot to add sugar while mixing the cake batter, he didn't add sugar on top of the baked cake to fix it. The whole thing was ruined, he said. We don't need to try to throw sugar on a system that's already messed up, Young told a fired-up crowd outside of City Hall. What we need to do is we need to start from scratch so that when we build the system back up, the system is built up right so that everybody can have a place at the table, everybody can have a chair. Even with 2 hurricanes approaching the Louisiana coast, protests continued after the City Hall event into Sunday evening as more than 200 people marched from Johnston Street to Ambassador Caffrey Parkway while police diverted traffic. Lumber costs soar amid booming housing market. Pandemic shuttered mills. An article by Timothy Boone. The housing market has done surprisingly well during the coronavirus pandemic, but builders are concerned that a doubling in lumber prices caused by pandemic-induced mill shutdowns is adding thousands of dollars to the cost of new homes and could dampen the industry's contribution to an economic recovery. With lumber mills slow to reopen in an uncertain economy and demand growing for new homes and from do-it-yourself home improvement projects by people stuck in their houses, the price of lumber has jumped to about $800 per thousand board feet last week. That's up from mid-April low around $320, but also is well above a pre-pandemic price of about $425. Where we were spending $50,000 on lumber, we're now spending $75,000, said Chris Pike, Principal and Chief Executive Officer of Baton Rouge-based custom home contractor Canebrake Builders, which has a development underway with homes ranging from $600,000 to $750,000. Ultimately, we have to pass the cost along to the buyer. He said a sheet of plywood that cost $8 in February now costs $20. Pike uses several hundred sheets of plywood on his custom-built homes, so the costs mount quickly. Jeff Prepara Jr., Chief Financial Officer of DSLD, a Baton Rouge company that plans to build about 2,200 homes this year across South Louisiana, including in the Acadiana and North Shore areas, said he's seen wood prices go up about 30% in the past few months. That's raising the cost of a new home by 1% to 2%, he said. The average price of DSLD homes is about $215,000. The National Association of Home Builders sent a letter to President Donald Trump earlier this month asking him to reach out to domestic lumber companies and encourage them to ramp up production to meet the demand. They're also asking the president to reopen trade talks with Canada and reach a new agreement on softwood lumber imports. The association said U.S. tariffs on Canadian lumber are averaging more than 20%. The association noted that framing lumber prices reached a record high in late July, while oriented strand board prices earlier this month had increased 138% over the past year. Karen Zito, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Baton Rouge Area Home Builders Association, said the housing industry can create thousands of jobs and help pull the economy forward if lumber prices are addressed. Despite a lull in March and April because of the pandemic, which initially caused lumber prices to dip from reduced demand, the housing market has been on a roll since then. Sales are being helped by historically low mortgage interest rates that have dropped below 3% on a 30-year mortgage. Home sales are up 3.4% in Metro Baton Rouge through July, and when compared with the first 7 months of 2019. In fact, new home construction has increased across South Louisiana in 2020, according to figures from the U.S. Census Bureau. The number of permits to build single-family homes were up 3% in Metro Baton Rouge during the first 6 months of the year, compared with the first half of 2019. Metro New Orleans has seen a 6% increase in permits, and the Lafayette area is up a whopping 52%. Buck Vanderstein, executive director of the Louisiana Forestry Association, said lumber mills were shut down in the early days of the pandemic for a variety of reasons. Some states didn't classify the lumber industry as an essential business, which meant employees were required to stay at home. Other mills shut down because of economic uncertainty when home building dropped sharply in March and April. Since then, the construction of new homes across the country has risen for 3 straight months and surged 22.6% in July. Now we're moving to another phase, more getting out and building things, Vanderstein said. What we are seeing now is a lot of demand for building material. The mills have not been able to respond to that. Some of the people who lost jobs at lumber mills have found other work, making it difficult to find enough people to staff facilities, and some mills, like Georgia Pacific's DeQuincy facility in Louisiana, are still closed because of economic uncertainty, he said. The DeQuincy mill produces about 150 million board feet of lumber a year, which accounts for a small share of the 3 billion board feet of lumber all of Louisiana's mills produce annually. Vandersteen notes that it takes several $1,000,000 to restart a mill, so even though prices are currently high, lumber companies want to make sure the virus is under control before they make the commitment to reopen. Everybody wants to be sure we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, he said. Even though the prices are currently high, they can change overnight. The hope is the lumber supply will catch up with demand by the end of the year as construction slows down in the winter and for the holidays. Future prices on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange show lumber prices at $660 per 1,000 board feet in January and $587 in May, compared with last week's $800 rate for September. That will change and settle back down, Vandersteen said. It always does. And Lafayette leaders condemn unlawful protesters. Activists call out administration's role in discord. An article by Katie Gagliano. Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory and law enforcement held a news conference Saturday condemning the behavior of protesters who they said threatened motorists and started fires earlier in the evening. Meanwhile, activists said Guillory should look internally at the role he and his administration have played in creating the charged climate. The news conference came after hours of community rallying and protests following the fatal shooting of 31-year-old Trayford Pellerin at a gas station Friday. Pellerin was shot by police after a roughly half-mile foot pursuit when law enforcement said he attempted to enter a gas station armed with a knife. The rally built on tension between the black community and Guillory's administration. Guillory was a common point of conversation and criticism throughout the evening as both planned speakers and protesters delivering impromptu remarks called out his lack of support and demanded he come to the table to build better relationships with the black community. In a written statement Saturday night, Guillory backed law enforcement's attempts to de-escalate the situation before Pellerin was shot. He said Pellerin was shot only when he tried to enter the convenience store, threatening the lives of the customers and workers inside, he wrote. While the incident has drawn significant media attention and protests, our personnel won't be distracted. They remain focused on ensuring the health and safety of our people. Our thoughts and prayers are with our community tonight and with the men and women in uniform who put their lives on the line every day to keep us safe, Guillory's statement said. Local NAACP leaders and activists decried Guillory's leadership after being denied access to the late-night news conference. They waited outside the Lafayette Police Headquarters on East University Avenue until about 10:30 p.m. to share their own statements. Several expressed disappointment in Guillory's lack of compassion for not offering condolences to Pellerin's surviving family. Regardless of the circumstances or the eventual investigatory outcomes, a man was killed, activists said. Josh Guillory is lower than a dog for that, activist Jamal Taylor said. Guillory did not address Pellerin's shooting at the Saturday night news conference, but did declare that Lafayette is a law-abiding city and that law enforcement and city leadership will use all resources to combat unlawful protesting. We are a peaceful community, and we will give up not a single inch of the city of Lafayette or the parish of Lafayette. We're different. This isn't Seattle. This isn't other cities across the country. We respect the rule of law, Guillory said. Lafayette NAACP President Marja Broussard said Guillory's administration has deteriorated local government's working relationship with the black community. I'll say it. Our mayor is racist. Everything he has done since he's been in office has impacted the African American community negatively. It's time for this to stop, Broussard said. What eventually became a protest march began as a peaceful rally on Evangeline Thruway, where Pellerin was shot and killed by Lafayette police a day earlier. After more than an hour, the crowd spilled into the roadway, blocking traffic in the northwest lanes and chanting, "No justice, no peace." Organizers of the rally attempted to move people from the road. However, about 6:45 p.m., a crowd of about 150 people moved down the thruway to block the intersection with Willow Street. Shortly after dark, as part of the crowd headed back to the Shell station, rocks and water bottles were thrown at police cars. Some eventually split off and marched to the Lafayette police substation on Moss Street. They were met by police in riot gear who eventually deployed smoke grenades to break up the crowd. Interim Police Chief Scott Morgan said there were several protesters arrested Saturday but did not confirm a number or elaborate on counts. Morgan said in addition to blocking traffic, protesters shot fireworks at buildings and started fires along Evangeline Thruway. He said the acts were malicious and participants should be ashamed. Lafayette Fire Chief Robert Benoit said several small flat fires were set in the median on Evangeline Thruway. Broussard and others gathered Saturday where some of the organizers of the original peaceful rally at the Shell station on Chalmette Drive and Northwest Frontage Road. They said while they don't agree with violence or destruction in the city, especially from potential outside bad actors, people also shouldn't be demonized. The mayor, president, and the parish council must have a reckoning with themselves tonight and ask themselves the question, are the streets of Lafayette safer tonight, or are they less safe because of my leadership, said Devin Norman, Lafayette NAACP Young Adult Committee chairperson. The shooting of Pellerin was captured on video by a bystander and shared widely on social media. It shows at least 5 Lafayette police officers approaching a black man with what witnesses said was a knife in his hand while walking away from police toward a convenience store. Video then shows officers open fire near the entrance of the convenience store and at least 10 shots can be heard. The man is then seen lying on the ground. A state police spokesperson said the Lafayette officers were called to a disturbance involving Pellerin about 8 p.m. Friday. They pursued Pellerin, who they say was holding a knife, and deployed stun guns, which state police said were ineffective. When Pellerin reached the Shell gas station, police shot him. Students create campus connections. College life adjusts to coronavirus era. An article by Ken Stickney and Julia Gilbo. Most students enroll in college to learn. Many of them stay in college because they feel involved, nurtured, and connected to their chosen campus. That's not lost on University of Louisiana at Lafayette's leaders, who aim to deliver not only an academic experience for students this fall, but also a social one that will encourage students to re-enroll for the spring. Overwhelmingly, our students reported a desire to be back on campus. Jamie Hebert, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, said at a virtual State of the University event this week. They wanted to interact with students and faculties. They missed the experience of student life. Cultivating those experiences in a pandemic is challenging. During the first week of classes, 5 students tested positive for COVID-19, though they were all commuter students who live off campus. In addition, 3 employees tested positive and 26 student residents were quarantined because they were either showing possible symptoms or were exposed to someone who tested positive. However, Hebert said student life experiences, shared time among friends, myriad campus events, and participation in student organizations make up a valuable portion of students' college memories. He said UL wants its new students to have those memories, COVID-19 or not. It's a different experience. Everyone's experience is different than we would have imagined, said Dean of Students Margarita Perez. She said the university is being creative in how it is enabling or encouraging experiences for students, including extracurricular activities, some in person, some virtual. One night, students play Boom Boom Bingo online, she said. Floor meetings held in the residence halls. Only residents can enter the residence halls. Take place on Microsoft Teams. Students are encouraged to socialize in small groups outdoors. Already in week number 1, students are appreciating the challenges of connecting with others on UL's campus, especially with classes offered in formats other than face-to-face. I don't even know what most of my classmates look like, said Zoe Bernard, a freshman studying criminal justice. But she said that even with restrictions, her introduction to campus has been satisfying. I'm loving it so far. There are always groups of people outside doing all kinds of different things, she said. Kristen Lano, also a freshman majoring in criminal justice, said she has had some initial difficulty meeting fellow students in her dorm because common areas in the dorms are closed to discourage large clusters of students from gathering and potentially spreading COVID-19. We've been able to meet our suite mates, but not really anyone else down the hall since the community rooms are closed, she said. I feel like you have to get outside of the dorms because it's kind of depressing just sitting in there all the time. So I'll get out and just walk the campus, Lano said. There's a reason for the dorm restrictions. Pat Cottenham, Vice President of Student Affairs, said campus leaders want to educate students about staying safe during the pandemic. Students still need to practice social distancing, she said. Some are a little challenged by that. We're working on that. We don't want to deny students the chance to meet friends and build relationships and learn from one another, Cottenham said. We want to provide social opportunities, but we want to keep them healthy. Cottenham said Get On Board Day has been an annual vehicle for introducing students, especially freshmen, to campus activities that are provided at UL by some 300 organizations and clubs, everything from athletics to sororities. Ordinarily, clubs set up booths on the campus quad early in the semester and provide new students with information about how they might join. This year, Cottenham said, organizations and clubs won't cluster on the lawn on a single day, but will present themselves to students by category of activity over the course of several weeks. For example, fraternities and sororities were featured on the quad this week. Religious organizations may present themselves next week. That's important, she said, because it gives students opportunities to connect with others, even if many activities during the semester may be presented virtually rather than in person. Carson Hall, a freshman majoring in mechanical engineering, said he didn't make it to Get On Board Day, but he says he's connected nonetheless with fraternities on campus, most recently by attending a fraternity barbecue. So I've been able to meet with a bunch of people, he said. Having that touch with others matters, Perez said. It's important for students to have contacts with their resident assistants and with community members on campus. Students need to feel like they belong to their community. That touch could be from a video or, in some instance, in person. COVID-19 is forcing us to explore other ways to connect. Perez said RAs, faculty, staff, and peer mentors have all been encouraged to make sure students get involved with others on campus. She said they are encouraging students, especially freshmen, who have fewer established contacts on campus to be intentional about making connections. We're trying to maintain the college experience, she said. We want students to meet people from other parts of the state and country, to explore new hobbies. That is what college is about, getting outside your comfort zone. We would love for every student to find a place where they feel they can connect based on their interests and values, Cottenham said. A happy, successful student does more than go to class and go home. Moving on, caution urged for Catholic school students. Health officials offer reminders on health protocols, an article by Ken Stickney. The area's top health official warned students and parents from Lafayette area Catholic schools this week to remain vigilant against COVID-19 all day, every day. Diocesan spokeswoman Blue Rolfes said that the first weeks of classes at Catholic elementary and high schools were successful for setting down social distancing expectations and other basic protections for students during the pandemic. Some 24 of the 30 schools were in operation last week, but we've been hearing about kids walking out of class, taking off their masks, and getting into vehicles together, Rolfes said. We've seen that in schools and especially in high schools. Worrisome, too, for the diocesan school leaders is that children have been discussing sleepovers, parties, and other gatherings outside of schools that may help spread the virus. What we're asking of parents is to get on board with us, Rolfes said. That means practicing social distancing and taking other basic precautions after school and on weekends. Rolfes said she videoed a short interview with Dr. Tina Stefanski, Region 4 Office of Public Health, to explain to the diocese's students that fighting to limit the spread of COVID-19 is a full-time effort, not just during school hours. Stefanski said in the video, which is on the Diocese of Lafayette's website, that levels of COVID-19 remain high and that although children are oftentimes asymptomatic, they do spread the disease through contact with others. She said participation at parties, sleepovers, and other large gatherings could create a domino effect and spread the virus to others. They may force quarantines, she said. Hospitals could be overwhelmed. As a community, she said Catholic school students and parents should wear masks, socially distance, and wash their hands frequently. What we risk, she said, is schools closing. Rolfes said some Catholic schools, such as Turlings High and Holy Family in Lafayette, have delayed the start of school until September the 8th. All right, just a sec. I'm going to grab a quick drink of water. We've got a few more stories here this morning. Then we'll move on to some fun things like our Zodiac and Today in History. All right, only in 2020. Seems like we'll hear that a lot, huh? Lauren and Marco, Acadiana prepares for a pair of oncoming storms. An article by Megan Wyatt. John Dozat shoved sand into bags Sunday afternoon in preparation for 2 hurricanes expected to hit Louisiana within a 72-hour period this week. His Broussard home narrowly escaped floodwater during the August 2016 storm, so he spent the weekend stocking up on canned goods and sandbags. I'm thinking the same thing everybody's thinking, Dozat said, only in 2020. People crowded into grocery and home improvement stores over the weekend to purchase shelf-stable food, bottled water, and equipment to prepare their homes for the 2 storms barreling toward Louisiana, one after the other. The first storm, Marco, was upgraded to a Category 1 hurricane Sunday morning. And the second storm, Laura, is forecast to hit the state as a Category 2 hurricane 48 hours later. Stein Home and Yard had 2 18-wheelers en route Sunday afternoon to restock shelves after selling out of some hurricane supplies, according to Jason Randall, a store manager. Stein had sold out of generators, 5-gallon gas cans, and most air conditioner window units by early Sunday afternoon. It doesn't feel panicky, Randall said, but we have continued to do the best we can to control the crowds. Every 30 minutes on the dot, we make an announcement just keeping everybody conscious of the mask mandate and distancing requirement. Customers were also buying chainsaws, tarps, plywood, bungee cords, and rope to prepare their homes and yards for high winds. Whenever a storm looks like it's going to hit, people come in and get these kinds of things, Randall said. It was nothing extra special Saturday, but Sunday, it's been record-breaking. Diedrich Joseph went to Walmart over the weekend to stock up on shelf-stable food, bottled water, charcoal, batteries, and flashlights. He also stopped by a sandbagging location to prepare his home's doors. Just be smart, Joseph said. Be ready. Never underestimate a hurricane. You never know what a hurricane can do. Voluntary evacuation has been issued for Lower St. Martin Parish. This is a staff report. St. Martin Parish President Chester Cedars has issued a voluntary evacuation for residents in the lower portion of the parish ahead of Hurricane Marco and Tropical Storm Laura. Voluntary evacuation is necessary for residents in the Stevensville and Bell River areas of the parish to allow time to escape high water conditions that could come with the storms. The first storm expected to hit Louisiana, Marco, was upgraded to a Category 1 hurricane Sunday morning. The second storm, Laura, is forecast to hit the state as a Category 2 hurricane 48 hours later. Anyone in need of further information or assistance can contact the St. Martin Parish Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness at 337-394-2808. Emergency declared for Lafayette Parish. Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory has declared a state of emergency ahead of Hurricane Marco and Tropical Storm Laura, both of which are approaching the Gulf of Mexico with paths that could affect Acadiana. Guillory issued the declaration at noon Sunday to implement immediate emergency actions in an effort to minimize the effects of the storms. Storm-related closings in the area. The following closings have been announced. South Louisiana Community College will close all campuses and cancel all classes Monday through Wednesday this week in anticipation of the potential impacts of Tropical Storm Marco and Hurricane Laura. The college will reevaluate plans for the remainder of the week on Wednesday. All Catholic schools in the Diocese of Lafayette will be closed Monday through Thursday, with classes resuming Friday. Parents are asked to continue to keep an eye on their children's school's communications system for updates over coming days during the approach of Marco and Laura. All right, one more story this morning. It's a sports story. Then we'll move on to our Zodiac Day in History. An old man finally gets his chance. Mature Cajuns W.R. Williams set for more playing time this season. An article by Kevin Foote. In his 2.5 decades on Earth, former Westminster Christian two-sport standout Jalen Williams has done quite a bit and been to quite a few places. But no, he's not as old as some of his teammates suggest. They come up with a whole bunch of stuff, Williams laughed. They teased me about it. They ask me how old I am, and they say 30 or 35. Actually, the old man turned 25 this past April. He graduated from high school in 2013, when many of his current teammates were in middle school. After being drafted by the Boston Red Sox in the 16th round, he played 3 seasons of minor league baseball before giving it up for his other dream of being a college football player. First, he spent 1 year as a scout squad walk-on at LSU before transferring to the Cajuns before Coach Billy Napier's first season at UL. Not much happened that first season, catching 5 balls for 56 yards in 11 games. Last season, though, Williams took a huge step forward with 21 receptions for 279 yards and a touchdown in 13 games. He made some critical plays in some games, Napier said. He made some great plays in the bowl game. Jalen is a big, strong guy that has body quickness and can stretch the field. I think overall, we see continued development there. We like Jalen. He's a leader. He's consistent. Somewhere during the time the 6'3", 218-pounder waited for his turn to make an impact, he resolved to be as professional as he could be. It all started with me basically setting my mind to kind of become more of a receiver and just a better all-around player for the team, Williams said. I got in my playbook more and started watching more films, studying the defenses, and getting with Levi Lewis and having side talks with him about everything. Just working. That's really it. Coach Napier preaches, master your craft, and that's basically what I've been trying to do the whole time. It's paid off in a big way. These days, Williams is slated to be a starting receiver for the Cajuns when UL travels to meet Iowa State on September 12th. As a fifth-year senior, Williams and sophomore sensation Peter LeBlanc are the leaders of a wide receiving corps filled with question marks. No, there's no pressure at all, said Williams, who was 4-2 with a 3.17 ERA in his pro baseball career, but said football was more of his passion. We practice a lot, we work, so we have confidence in the whole group. We don't really worry about where last year is compared to this year. We know what we have, we're just ready to prove ourselves. Perhaps at no time will Williams' maturity level be more critical to the Cajuns than this fall. Jalen has character, Napier said. He's also another young man that has grown up and continues to get better in a lot of areas. The big thing for Jalen is last year was his first significant year of playing time at receiver in particular, and I think he learned a lot and developed some confidence in particular at the end of the year. The leader in Williams warns against overlooking UL's talented class of freshman receivers. I can't really single out one of them because they all come, they all put their head down, and they work, Williams said. They want to get better. They want to earn playing time. I can see that fire in each and every one of them. Besides his age, Williams is unlike many wide receivers in other ways as well. For one, he's always relished playing special teams. Jalen is a good special teams player, Napier said. He's tough, he's physical, he's got length. It's very, very important for him to have a role on the team. He'll certainly have a bigger role on the team this year. Secondly, he relishes the physical side of the game. I try to separate myself from any other wide receiver who may not have that part mastered in their game, being that physical, Williams said. I just try to bring something to the table that everybody may not have. Another big step in Williams becoming a viable option as a starter is tightening his relationship with quarterback Levi Lewis. In the locker room, me and him talk just about all the time, Williams said. We're in the same locker block, even on the practice field after plays. We go on the sidelines and we communicate what we did wrong and how we could get better in which areas. In his mind, Williams has improved in every area of the game. The stage is set. The season is the moment he's been waiting for since leaving professional baseball 4 years ago. I'm really excited for this season, Williams said, and I've been waiting to get into this position. I've been working while I've been waiting. I'm confident. I'm ready. Whenever they put the ball down, I'm ready to go after it. Right, it's 9:45. We still have a few minutes left this morning. We're going to get to our horoscopes and day in history, but first let's take a look at funerals today in the Acadiana area. Florinell Daigle at St. Michael the Archangel Catholic Church in Crowley at 10 a.m. this morning. Willis Gary at Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Church at 700 South Broadway Street in Erath at 10 this morning. Mary Royer at Evangeline Memorial Gardens Chapel in Karen Crow at 2 p.m. this afternoon. Miriam Roy at St. Landry Catholic Church in Opelousas at 10 a.m. and Sidney Segura, St. Peter Catholic Church in New Iberia at 11 a.m. First, let's take a peek at today in history. Today is, of course, Monday. It's August 24th. It's the 237th day of 2020. There are 129 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history, on August 24th in AD 79, long-dormant Mount Vesuvius erupted, burying the Roman cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum in volcanic ash. An estimated 20,000 people died. On this date in AD 410, Rome was overrun by the Visigoths, a major event in the fall of the Western Roman Empire. In 1814, during the War of 1812, British forces invaded Washington, D.C., setting fire to the Capitol, which was still under construction, and the White House, as well as other public buildings. On this date in 1932, Amelia Earhart embarked on a 19-hour flight from Los Angeles to Newark, New Jersey, making her the first woman to fly solo, nonstop, from coast to coast. In 1949, the North Atlantic Treaty came into force. In 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the Communist Control Act, outlawing the Communist Party in the United States. In 1968, France became the world's first thermonuclear power, as it exploded a hydrogen bomb in the South Pacific. In 1981, Mark David Chapman was sentenced in New York to 20 years to life in prison for murdering John Lennon. Chapman remains imprisoned. In 1989, the Voyager 2 space probe flew by Neptune and sending back striking photographs. In 2003, the Justice Department reported the U.S. crime rate in 2002 was the lowest since studies began in 1973. On this date in 2007, the NFL indefinitely suspended Atlanta Falcons quarterback Michael Vick without pay after he acknowledged in court papers that he had indeed bankrolled gambling on dogfighting and helped kill some dogs not worthy of the pit. In 2012, the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency wiped out 14 years of Lance Armstrong's cycling career, including his record 7 Tour de France titles, and barred him for life from the sport after concluding he'd used banned substances. 10 years ago today, a Chinese passenger jet broke apart and burst into flames as it hit the runway, killing 42 people and injuring 54 others. A suicide bomber and gunmen attacked a hotel near Somalia's presidential palace. At least 32 people were killed, along with 2 militants. 5 years ago, U.S. Airman Spencer Stone, National Guardsman Alex Skarlatos, their longtime friend Anthony Sadler, and British businessman Chris Norman were presented with the Legion of Honor by French President Francois Hollande, who credited them with tackling a heavily armed attacker and preventing carnage on a high-speed train heading to Paris. 1 year ago today, 2 weeks before the Indianapolis Colts were to play their season-opening game, 29-year-old quarterback Andrew Luck announced that he was retiring after 3 injury-plagued seasons. Today's birthdays: composer-musician Mason Williams is 82 today. Rhythm and blues singer Marshall Thompson of the Chi-Lites is 78. Rock musician Ken Hensley is 75 today. Actor Ann Archer is 73. Actor Kevin Dunn turns 65 today. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee also 65 today. Actor-writer Stephen Fry turns 63. Actor Steve Guttenberg is 62 today. Baseball Hall of Famer Cal Ripken Jr. turns 60. Actor Jared Harris is 59 today. Talk show host Craig Kilborn turns 58. CBS News correspondent Major Garrett turns 58 as well. Rock singer John Bush is 57 today. Actor Marlee Matlin is 55. Basketball Hall of Famer Reggie Miller turns 55 today. Broadcast journalist David Gregory is 50. Country singer Kristen Osborne of Shidazy is 50 today. Movie director Ava DuVernay is 48. Actor-comedian Dave Chappelle is 47 today. Actor James Darcy is 47. Actor Carmine Giovinazzo, 47, and actor Alex O'Loughlin turns 44. All right, lastly this morning, let's take a look at the zodiac. If you're a Virgo, an online journey will lead you in a new direction. A chance to use your skills differently will lead to interesting partnerships. Reconnect with someone you haven't seen in a long time. Libra, don't overspend or let anyone take advantage of you financially. Unfinished business will leave you in an awkward position. Damage control will be necessary. Scorpio, use reason when dealing with people delivering ultimatums, and you'll find a way to get them to see things your way. A change is likely to happen quickly. Go with the flow, and the result will be better than anticipated. Sagittarius, helping someone who has assisted you in the past will make you feel good. A sales pitch may entice you, but make sure you can afford the buy-in. Stick to what you can afford. Capricorn, listen to someone's plan, but don't make any hasty commitments. Concentrate on your health and emotional well-being. Don't hesitate to do your own thing. Aquarius, being observant will keep you out of trouble and allow you to make a wise decision. Distance yourself from a situation that is causing confusion or making you feel bad. Pisces, you can repair a damaged partnership if you're willing to accept some of the blame. An exciting new perspective on something you've always wanted to do will encourage you to take a chance. Avoid taking on too much of a financial burden or giving the impression you are capable of doing something you cannot. Take a moment to rethink your strategy. Taurus, don't let someone's flirtation or poor judgment lead to a bad decision. The more hands-on you are when making decisions, the easier it will be to control the outcome. Gemini, don't let your personal life interfere with your work responsibilities. Recognize when someone is taking advantage of you. Focus on getting ahead, not on pleasing someone who doesn't deserve you. Cancer, a hobby or self-improvement project will push you to pursue an exciting path. Reconnect with old friends and plan a virtual reunion. A forgive and forget attitude is favored. Leo, finish what you start and honor your promises. A lifestyle change will improve an important relationship. If you have doubts, say what's on your mind and find out where you stand. The horoscope, of course, is an entertainment feature, not based on scientific fact. That's just about all we have this morning. It's 9:53. We're going to wrap things up. A reminder that this is a community service, and we normally have volunteers here. Right now, we are volunteering from our homes. We're not coming in person to read the news. So if you're interested in volunteering and you have a computer with an internet connection, you're probably qualified. We would love to have you as part of our program. If you would like to help read for the vision impaired and those who don't have access to this news cycle, just contact us at info@aocinc.org, or you can go to our website, aocinc.org. There's a volunteer tab there. You can find out more about our volunteer opportunities. There are different ways you can listen to this program, of course, wherever you're listening this morning. If it's AOC 1, Cypress Street Radio on YouTube, we appreciate you so much for tuning in. We hope you'll join us next time. We do this each weekday at 9 a.m., reading articles of local and state news from the Acadiana Advocate. Thanks so much. We'll catch you back here next time on AOC. Have a great day.